The discovery. The vast expanse of space stretched out before the UES horizon, humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. Captain Ilara Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes scanning the star-strewn void beyond the reinforced viewports. The ship had been pushing the boundaries of known space for months, seeking new resources and potential colony sites for an ever-expanding human civilization. "Captain, we're picking up an anomalous reading at the edge of our sensor range," reported Lieutenant Raj Patel, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface of his station. "It's faint, but there's definitely something out there." Chen straightened, her interest piqued. "Can you get a visual, Lieutenant?" "Negative, Captain. Whatever it is, it's too small and too far for our optical sensors. But the energy signature, it's like nothing I've seen before." A spark of excitement flickered in Chen's chest. This was why she had joined the Exploration Corps. The thrill of the unknown, the possibility of discovery. Plot and intercept course, helm. Let's see what we found. As the horizon adjusted its trajectory, Chen couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Humanity had yet to encounter any sentient alien life, despite centuries of searching. Every anomaly, every unexplained phenomenon brought with it the possibility of first contact and the potential dangers that came with it. Hours passed as the ship drew closer to the mysterious object. The bridge crew worked in tense silence, each lost in their own thoughts about what they might find. Finally, Lieutenant Patel's voice cut through the quiet. "Captain, we have visual contact." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a small, sleek object tumbling slowly through space. Its design was clearly artificial, with smooth curves and an iridescent hull that seemed to shimmer even in the darkness of space. But what caught Chen's attention were the scorch marks and impact craters marring its surface. "It appears to be some kind of escape pod," said Commander Zoe Blackwood, the ship's XO, her voice tinged with awe. "And definitely not of human origin." Chen's heart raced. This was it, proof of intelligent life beyond Earth. But the pod's condition suggested a grim story. "Life signs." Patel frowned at his readings. "Very faint, Captain. There's someone in there, but they're barely holding on." The weight of the moment settled on Chen's shoulders. The next decision she made could change the course of human history. Protocol dictated caution. Unknown alien life forms could pose unforeseen dangers to the crew. But the thought of leaving someone to die alone in the cold vacuum of space, regardless of their origin, went against everything she believed in. "Prep the medical bay," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her mind. "We're bringing it aboard." The next hour was a flurry of activity as the crew prepared for their unexpected guest. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the ship's chief medical officer, transformed the medbay into a quarantine zone, ready to deal with any unknown biological factors. Security teams stood at the ready, pulse rifles charged but set to stun. Chen watched from behind a force field as the battered escape pod was carefully maneuvered into the Horizon's main hangar. Up close, the alien design was even more apparent. Organic curves blended seamlessly with what appeared to be advanced technology, creating a form that was both beautiful and alien. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the pod's hatch slowly opened. The security team tensed, weapons raised. But instead of a threat, they found a broken figure slumped in a pool of silvery liquid that Chen assumed was blood. The alien was humanoid, but that's where the similarities ended. Its skin was a pale lilac, covered in intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with a faint bioluminescence. Instead of hair, a crest of flexible, iridescent spines crowned its head. But what struck Chen most were the alien's eyes as they fluttered open. 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, with irises that swirled with colors she couldn't even name. Those eyes locked onto Chen, filled with pain and something else. Recognition. The alien's mouth moved, and a series of clicks and whistles emerged before it slipped back into unconsciousness. Dr. Tanaka rushed forward, medical scanners whirring. We need to get her to the med bay immediately. Her physiology is unlike anything I've ever seen, but she's suffering from severe internal injuries and radiation exposure." Chen nodded, still processing the fact that she had just made eye contact with an alien being. "Do what you can, Doctor, but maintain quarantine protocols. We don't know what we're dealing with here." As the medical team rushed the unconscious alien to treatment, Chen turned to her XO. "Zoe, I want a full analysis of that escape pod. Where it came from, how long it's been drifting. Anything that can give us some context." Blackwood nodded, her expression a mix of excitement and concern. "What about Earth Command? We should inform them immediately." Chen paused, considering. The regulations were clear. First contact scenarios were to be reported without delay. But something held her back. The alien's condition, the state of the escape pod. It all pointed to a larger conflict. Bringing Earth into the situation without understanding it fully could have disastrous consequences. "We're too far out for real-time communication," Chen said slowly. "Compile a report, but hold off on sending it. I want to know more about our guest and the situation we've stumbled into before we alert command." Blackwood raised an eyebrow, but didn't argue. She knew Chen well enough to trust her judgment. Over the next few days, the horizon buzzed with a mixture of excitement and tension. Dr. Tanaka worked tirelessly to save their alien patient, marveling at the complexities of its biology. The engineering team, led by the brilliant but eccentric Dr. Marcus Flynn, pored over every inch of the escape pod, unraveling its secrets. Chen spent her time between the medbay, the engineering lab, and the bridge, trying to piece together the puzzle they had stumbled upon. The escape pod's computer systems had been badly damaged, but Flynn's team managed to extract fragments of data. "It's not much, Captain," Flynn reported, his wild gray hair even more disheveled than usual. "But we've managed to translate some of the language. It seems our guest is called a Nexari, and we're pretty sure it's a she, holds some kind of high military rank." Chen frowned. "Military? So we're dealing with a potential combat situation." Flynn shrugged. "Hard to say. The pod's emergency beacon was transmitting on a frequency that seems designed to avoid detection, almost like she was running from her own people." The mystery deepened, and with it, Chen's unease. They had saved this alien's life, but what would happen when she fully regained consciousness? Would she see them as saviors or enemy combatants? Her pondering was interrupted by an urgent call from the medbay. "Captain, you better get down here." Dr. Tanaka's voice crackled over the comm. "Our patient is waking up." Chen's heart raced as she made her way to the medbay. This was the moment of truth, the first true interaction between humanity and an alien intelligence. As she approached the quarantine field, she saw the Nexari stirring on the biobed, her three eyes blinking in confusion. Dr. Tanaka stood nearby, medical scanner in hand. "Her vital signs are stabilizing, but I have no baseline for what's normal for her species. Approach with caution, Captain." Chen nodded, then stepped closer to the field. The Nexari's eyes focused on her, and for a moment there was silence. Then, to Chen's amazement, the alien spoke, in perfect, albeit accented, English. You saved me. Why?" Chen blinked in surprise, both at the alien's ability to speak their language and the unexpected question. She chose her words carefully. "It was the right thing to do. We couldn't leave you to die out there." The Nexari's expression was unreadable, her alien features making it difficult for Chen to interpret. "Then your people are either very noble or very foolish. Perhaps both." She tried to sit up but winced in pain. "Please, don't strain yourself," Chen said, instinctively moving to help before remembering the quarantine field. "You're safe here. I'm Captain Ilara Chen of the UES Horizon. May I ask your name?" The alien hesitated, then spoke. Was Commander Zarketh of the Nexari Defense Fleet." Her voice carried a weight of sorrow and resignation. "But that title means nothing now. I am exiled, a traitor to my people." Chen's mind raced with questions, but she forced herself to remain calm. Zarketh, we found your escape pod badly damaged. Can you tell us what happened? Are there others we should be looking for? Zarketh's 3 eyes closed briefly, as if in pain. No others. I am alone. As for what happened, she trailed off, her gaze distant. It is a long and painful tale, Captain Chen. One that may put your people in grave danger if you choose to hear it. A tense silence fell over the medbay. Chen could feel the weight of the moment, the precipice of a decision that could change everything. She thought of her crew, of Earth, of the responsibility she bore as a representative of humanity in this first contact scenario. But as she looked at Zarketh, wounded, alone, and yet still carrying herself with a warrior's pride, Chen knew there was only one choice she could make. We're listening, Zarketh, she said softly. Tell us your story. As Zarketh began to speak, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that the fate of 2 civilizations now rested in her hands. Whatever came next, the universe had changed irrevocably. Humanity was no longer alone among the stars, for better or for worse. And on the bridge of the UES horizon, unnoticed by the preoccupied crew, long-range sensors picked up the faint signatures of approaching ships that were neither human nor Nexari in origin. The true test of humanity's place in the cosmos was only just beginning. Awakening intentions. The medbay of the UES horizon hummed with an uneasy energy as Captain Ilara Chen and her senior staff gathered around the quarantine field. On the other side, Commander Zarketh sat upright on the biobed, her 3 eyes darting between the assembled humans. The alien's wounds had begun to heal at an astonishing rate, but Dr. Tanaka insisted on maintaining the quarantine, citing unknown biological factors. I owe you my life, Zarketh began, her voice a mix of gratitude and wariness. But I fear my presence here may doom you all. Chen leaned forward, her expression a mask of calm despite the tension coiling in her stomach. We understand the risks, Commander, but we need to know what we're dealing with. What drove you to flee your own people? Zarketh's crest of iridescent spines rippled, a gesture Chen was beginning to associate with deep emotion. My exile is the result of a choice, one that saved millions of lives, but branded me a traitor. As Zarketh spoke, a picture began to form of a civilization not unlike humanity's own, technologically advanced, driven by a mixture of noble ideals and base instincts. The Nexari, she explained, had expanded rapidly across their star system, driven by population pressures and a cultural imperative to explore. We encountered other sentient species, Zarketh continued, her eyes taking on a distant look. Some peaceful, others not so much. Our military grew stronger with each encounter, fueled by a paranoia that we must strike first or be struck down. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. How close had humanity come to following a similar path? I was tasked with leading an assault on a newly discovered world, Zarketh said, her voice heavy with regret. Our intelligence suggested a primitive but potentially dangerous species. The plan was to subjugate them quickly, to prevent any future threat. But you didn't go through with it, Chen guessed, seeing the pain in Zarketh's alien features. The Nexari warrior nodded. I secretly sent a warning to the planet, gave them time to prepare, to show us they were more than we assumed. When I refused to launch the attack, I was branded a traitor. I barely escaped with my life. A heavy silence fell over the medbay as the implications of Zarketh's story sank in. It was Commander Zoe Blackwood who finally broke it, her voice tight with concern. Captain, if what she's saying is true, we could be looking at a highly aggressive, expansionist alien empire. We need to warn Earth immediately. Chen held up a hand, her mind racing. Not yet, Zoe. We don't have enough information. For all we know, we could trigger a panic that leads to the very conflict we're trying to avoid. Dr. Marcus Flynn, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly spoke up. There's something else to consider, Captain. The technology in Zarketh's escape pod. It's incredible, but it's not that far beyond our own. If the Nexeri have been expanding for as long as she suggests, they should be more advanced. Zarketh's eyes widened slightly, a gesture of surprise. You are perceptive, human. It is true, my people's expansion has slowed in recent centuries. We've hit barriers in our scientific understanding that we struggle to overcome. A spark of excitement lit up Flynn's eyes. Barriers we might not have. Captain, do you realize what this could mean? An exchange of knowledge could benefit both our species immensely, or give them the keys to our destruction, muttered Lieutenant Raj Patel, the tactical officer. His hand had been hovering near his sidearm since Zarketh began her tale. Chen raised her voice, cutting through the growing murmurs of debate. Enough. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Our priority now is to understand the immediate situation and ensure the safety of this ship and its crew. She turned back to Zarketh, her expression softening slightly. Commander, I appreciate your honesty, but I hope you understand that we'll need to verify your story as best we can. In the meantime, you'll remain under quarantine, for your safety as well as ours. Zarketh nodded, a gesture eerily similar to a human's. I understand, Captain Chen. I would do the same in your position. But please, do not underestimate the danger. If the Nexeri fleet finds me here, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, Chen said firmly. For now, rest and heal. Dr. Tanaka will see to your needs. As the senior staff filed out of the medbay, Chen could feel the undercurrent of tension. The crew had signed up for exploration, for scientific discovery, not for being on the front lines of a potential interstellar conflict. Over the next few days, the atmosphere on the horizon grew increasingly strained. Rumors spread like wildfire through the ship, each retelling of Zarketh's story growing more exaggerated. Chen did her best to maintain order, but she could see the fear in her crew's eyes. In engineering, Dr. Flynn and his team worked around the clock, studying the alien technology from the escape pod. Their excitement was palpable. Every discovery was a leap forward in human scientific understanding. Captain, you've got to see this, Flynn called out as Chen entered the lab on the third day. He gestured to a holographic display of what looked like an impossibly complex engine schematic. The Nexeri have found a way to manipulate subspace fields in a way we never even considered. If we can adapt this to our own drive systems, we could increase our FTL speeds by an order of magnitude. Chen allowed herself a small smile at the scientist's enthusiasm. That's impressive, Marcus. But remember, we're not just here to pillage their technology. We need to think about the bigger picture. Flynn's face fell slightly. Of course, Captain. It's just, the possibilities are endless. Think of what humanity could achieve with this knowledge, or what the Nexeri could do with ours, Chen reminded him gently. Meanwhile, in the medbay, Dr. Tanaka had made her own breakthroughs in understanding Nexeri biology. It's fascinating, Captain, she reported, her eyes alight with scientific curiosity. Their cellular structure allows for rapid healing and adaptation, and their brain, it's like nothing I've ever seen. The potential applications for human medicine are staggering, but not everyone shared the scientist's excitement. In the ship's gym, Chen found Lieutenant Patel leading a group of security officers through combat drills. We need to be prepared for anything, Captain, Patel said, wiping sweat from his brow. If the Nexeri come for us, or if our guest turns out to be less friendly than she appears. Chen nodded, understanding the man's concerns. Keep the team sharp, Lieutenant. But remember, we're explorers first, not soldiers. Let's not lose sight of that. As she made her rounds through the ship, Chen could feel the conflicting currents of fear, excitement, and uncertainty running through her crew. She knew she was walking a razor's edge, balancing the thrill of discovery against the very real dangers they faced. Back in her quarters, Chen pored over the reports from her department heads. The picture they painted was both thrilling and terrifying. The potential benefits of peaceful contact with the Nexeri were immense: scientific breakthroughs, cultural exchange, a new chapter in human history. But the risks were equally great. Misunderstandings could lead to conflict, and the Nexary's superior numbers and technology could spell doom for Earth if hostilities broke out. A chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called out, surprised to see Commander Blackwood step inside. The XO's face was drawn with worry. "Ilara," Zoe said, dropping formalities. "We need to talk." The crew, they're scared. Excited too, but mostly scared. "We can't keep this quiet forever. Sooner or later, we're going to have to make a decision about contacting Earth." Chen sighed, running a hand through her short black hair. "I know, Zoe, but what do we tell them? That we've stumbled into a potential war between alien empires. That we might have painted a target on Earth's back just by being here." Blackwood sat down across from her, her expression softening. "We tell them the truth. As much as we know. They're a good crew, Ilara. They deserve to know what they're facing." Before Chen could respond, the ship's eye chimed in. "Captain, we're picking up an unknown energy signature at the edge of our sensor range. It matches the profile of Nexary technology." Chen and Blackwood exchanged a look of alarm. "Time to make some decisions, Captain," the XO said grimly. Rising to her feet, Chen straightened her uniform. "Sound yellow alert. I want all senior staff in the briefing room in 5 minutes, and bring Commander Zarketh as well. It's time we got some more answers." As the alert klaxons began to sound, Chen felt the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of her ship and crew, but potentially the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. In the medbay, Zarketh's eyes snapped open, her crest of spines flaring with agitation. She could sense the change in the ship's energy, the rising tension. As Dr. Tanaka approached to escort her to the briefing, the Nexari warrior steeled herself. The moment of truth had arrived sooner than she'd hoped. The universe, it seemed, was not content to let the UES Horizon's accidental first contact remain a secret for long. As crew members rushed to their stations and senior officers gathered for the emergency briefing, the true test of humanity's place among the stars was about to begin. Unexpected alliance. The briefing room of the UES Horizon crackled with tension as Captain Ilara Chen surveyed her senior staff. Commander Zarketh stood at the far end of the room, her alien presence a stark reminder of how quickly their mission of exploration had transformed into something far more complex. "Report," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the anxiety gnawing at her gut. Lieutenant Patil cleared his throat. "The energy signature is definitely Nexari in origin, Captain, but it's not behaving like we'd expect from a military vessel. Its course is erratic." Zarketh's crest rippled, her 3 eyes narrowing. "May I see the sensor data?" she asked, her accented English tinged with concern. Chen nodded, and a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the table. The alien studied it intently, her expression growing increasingly troubled. "This is not a Nexari military ship," Zarketh declared, her voice tight. "The energy signature, the erratic movement. This bears all the hallmarks of a Scourge raider." A murmur of confusion ran through the assembled officers. Chen leaned forward. "Scourge. Another alien species." Zarketh's eyes met Chen's, and the captain was struck by the intensity of the alien's gaze. "The Scourge are a scavenger race, Captain. Pirates and slavers who prey on the fringes of civilized space. They're opportunists, striking at vulnerable targets and disappearing before organized forces can respond." Dr. Flynn's eyes widened. "Like a deep space exploration vessel far from home," he ventured. The implications hung heavy in the air. Chen's mind raced, weighing their options. They were alone out here, cut off from support, facing an unknown threat. "Tactical analysis, Mr. Patel," she ordered. The tactical officer frowned at his datapad. "Hard to say without more information, Captain, but based on what we can see and Commander Zarketh's input, I'd say we're outgunned." Their technology seems to be a hodgepodge of stolen tech from multiple species. Unpredictable, but potentially very dangerous. Chen turned to Zarketh. Commander, I need to know, can we trust you? If this turns into a combat situation, where do you stand? The alien warrior straightened, her posture rigid. Captain Chen, you saved my life when you had every reason to let me die. My exile from the Nexari means I have no love left for my former people. But the Scourge, they are a blight on the galaxy, a threat to all sentient life. If you'll have me, I will fight at your side. A tense silence fell over the room as the human crew members exchanged glances. It was Commander Blackwood who spoke first. Captain, I know it's a risk, but we could use her help. She knows more about our potential enemy than we do. Chen nodded slowly. Agreed. Commander Zarketh, consider yourself temporarily reinstated. I want you working with Lieutenant Pottle on defensive strategies. As if on cue, the ship's AI chimed in. Captain, the unidentified vessel has changed course. They're on an intercept trajectory. Red alert, Chen ordered, her voice clear and commanding. All hands to battle stations. Let's show these Scourge that humanity isn't an easy target. The next hours were a flurry of activity as the Horizon prepared for potential combat. In engineering, Dr. Flynn and his team worked feverishly to implement some of the Nexari shield modifications they'd gleaned from Zarketh's escape pod. On the bridge, Zarketh stood beside Lieutenant Patel at the tactical station, her alien features set in grim determination. Their primary weapons will be disruptors, she explained, designed to disable rather than destroy. They want to board us, to take prisoners, and salvage technology. Patel nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. Then we focus on maintaining our shield integrity. If we can keep them from getting a boarding party across, we might have a chance. As the Scourge ship drew closer, its true nature became apparent. The vessel was a nightmarish amalgamation of different alien technologies, its hull a patchwork of mismatched metals and strange, organic-looking growths. They're hailing us, reported Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka from the communications station. Chen squared her shoulders. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing a bizarre alien visage. The Scourge captain, if that's what it was, appeared to be a creature of living metal and pulsing flesh. Its voice, when it spoke, was a grating metallic rasp that the universal translator struggled to interpret. Unidentified vessel. Your technology is interesting. Surrender now, and we will ensure your deaths are quick. Resist, and you will wish for such mercy. Chen's eyes narrowed. This is Captain Ilara Chen of the UES Horizon. We have no quarrel with you, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. I suggest you alter your course and be on your way. The Scourge captain's face split in what might have been a grin, revealing rows of gleaming metallic teeth. Brave words, little creature. We shall enjoy breaking you. The transmission cut off abruptly. Chen turned to her crew, her voice steady. Battle stations. Evasive maneuvers, pattern delta. Mr. Patel, you're clear to return fire when they're in range. The space around the horizon lit up with weapons fire as the Scourge ship launched its assault. The human vessel rocked under the impact, but Flynn's modified shields held. Shields at 82% and holding, Paddle reported, a note of surprise in his voice. Those Nexari modifications are working better than we hoped. Zarketh's eyes were fixed on the tactical display. There, she pointed, their aft section. The integration of technologies is weakest there. A concentrated burst of your plasma cannons could disrupt their power distribution. Patel looked to Chen, who nodded her approval. Do it. The Horizon's weapons lashed out, striking the Scourge vessel precisely where Zarketh had indicated. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Arcs of energy coursed over the enemy ship's hull as systems overloaded. Their shields are down, Patil exclaimed. We have a clear shot at their engines. Chen's mind raced. This was their chance to end the fight. to ensure the safety of her crew. But as she opened her mouth to give the order to fire, she caught sight of Zarketh. The alien's expression was one of grim satisfaction, but also regret. In that moment, Chen made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Hold fire," she ordered. "Hail them." The bridge crew looked at her in shock, but Chen's gaze remained steady. The view screen flickered back to life, showing the scourge captain's face contorted in a mixture of rage and fear. "This is Captain Chen," she said, her voice level. "As you can see, we're more than capable of defending ourselves. But I'm offering you a choice. Leave now, and we'll allow you to withdraw. Stay, and we'll be forced to destroy you. The choice is yours." For a long moment, silence reigned on the bridge. Then, without a word, the scourge ship began to turn away, limping off into the depths of space. As the tension on the bridge slowly dissipated, Chen felt Zarketh's eyes upon her. She turned to face the alien warrior, whose expression was one of open amazement. "You showed them mercy," Zarketh said softly. "Even after their threats, even knowing what they are, you gave them a chance to retreat." Chen nodded. "It's who we are, or at least it's who we strive to be. We're explorers, not conquerors. We'll fight if we must, but we don't destroy needlessly." Zarketh's crest rippled in what Chen was beginning to recognize as a gesture of deep emotion. "I have much to learn from your people, Captain Chen. Perhaps there is hope for coexistence in this galaxy after all." As the adrenaline of battle faded, Chen felt the weight of the moment settle upon her. They had faced their first true test in deep space and emerged victorious. But more than that, they had demonstrated the best of humanity to not one, but two alien species. "Captain," Commander Blackwood said, approaching with a data pad in hand, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. They're demanding a full report on our situation." Chen took a deep breath. The time for secrets was over. Now came the hard part, explaining to humanity that they were no longer alone in the universe, and that their actions in the coming days and weeks could determine the fate of their species. "Prepare a full briefing package," she ordered, "and inform Command that we'll be bringing a diplomatic guest when we return." As she turned back to the view screen, watching the stars streak by as the horizon resumed its course, Chen couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. They had made first contact, faced a hostile force, and emerged not just intact, but with a potential ally. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity had taken its first steps into a larger galaxy, and they had done so not with conquest or fear, but with compassion and courage. It was, Chen reflected, a pretty good start. But as the horizon sped towards home, none of its crew could have imagined the web of galactic politics and ancient conflicts they had just entangled themselves in. Their journey, and humanity's trial by fire, was only just beginning. The grand deception, the UES Horizon's return to Earth, was anything but triumphant. As the ship docked at the orbital station, Captain Ilara Chen could feel the weight of countless eyes upon them. News of their encounter with alien life had spread like wildfire, and the reaction back home was a mixture of excitement, fear, and suspicion. Chen stood at the airlock, Commander Zarketh by her side. The Nexari warrior looked uncharacteristically nervous, her crest of spines rippling with agitation. "Remember," Chen said softly, "no matter what happens in there, you're under my protection. We're in this together now." Zarketh nodded, her three eyes blinking in rapid succession. "I trust you, Captain, but I fear the reception we'll receive may not be as enlightened as your own." The airlock hissed open, revealing a contingent of Earth Defense Force officers led by Admiral Viktor Petrov, a stern-faced man whose reputation for hardline tactics preceded him. "Captain Chen," Petrov said, his voice clipped, "I trust you understand the gravity of this situation. You'll be escorted to a secure debriefing facility immediately. As for the alien," his eyes narrowed as they fell on Zarketh, "it will be taken to a containment unit for study." Chen stepped forward, placing herself between Zarketh and the Admiral. "With all due respect, sir, Commander Zarketh is here as our guest and potential ally. She'll be treated with the dignity afforded to any visiting dignitary." Petrov's face darkened. "You overstep your authority, Captain. Need I remind you of the potential threat this creature poses?" "The only threat here, Admiral," Chen replied, her voice steady. "It is to our principles if we abandon them at the first sign of the unknown." For a tense moment, it seemed as though Petrov might order his men to forcibly separate them. But then, a new voice cut through the tension. "Well said, Captain Chen." All heads turned to see Dr. Evelyn Rhodes, Earth's foremost xenobiologist and a key member of the planet's first contact protocol team. She stepped forward, her eyes alight with curiosity as she regarded Zarketh. "Admiral Petrov, might I suggest we follow the established first contact procedures? After all, we've prepared for this moment for decades. Let's not allow fear to dictate our actions." Petrov hesitated, then grudgingly nodded. "Very well, but I want a full security detail present at all times." As they made their way through the station to the debriefing area, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The tension in the air seemed excessive, even given the unprecedented nature of the situation. Her suspicions deepened during the debriefing. The questions from the assembled officials seemed less focused on establishing peaceful contact and more on extracting military intelligence about the Nexari. "Tell us about their fleet capabilities," one stern-faced general demanded. "What are the weaknesses in their defenses?" Zarketh, to her credit, remained diplomatic. "I'm afraid much of that information is classified, even to one of my former rank. And as I've explained, I am no longer affiliated with the Nexari military." As the interrogation dragged on, Chen found her mind wandering to the data package Dr. Flynn had prepared before their return. The engineer had made some fascinating discoveries about Nexari technology, particularly their faster-than-light drive systems. It was during a brief recess that Chen overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. "The alien tech we recovered from that Scourge ship is beyond anything we've seen," a voice whispered urgently. "If we can reverse engineer it, we'll have a decisive advantage when the invasion comes." "Quiet, you fool," another voice hissed. "We can't risk the alien or Chen overhearing. The plan is too important." Chen's mind raced. What plan? And how had Earth forces recovered Scourge technology? The implications were staggering and terrifying. As the debriefing resumed, Chen caught Zarketh's eye. The alien's subtle nod told her that she, too, had overheard something she shouldn't have. Over the next few days, as Earth's leaders debated the implications of first contact, Chen and her crew worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. Dr. Flynn pored over the sensor logs from their encounter with the Scourge, while Lieutenant Petil used his security clearance to dig into recent Earth Defense Force operations. It was Zarketh who provided the final piece of the puzzle. The energy signature of that Scourge ship she mused during a private meeting in Chen's temporary quarters. There was something off about it. It didn't quite match the profiles I remember from my time in the Nexari fleet. Flynn's eyes widened. "Of course. That's why some of the readings seemed familiar. Captain, I think that ship might have been using some kind of hybrid Earth-Nexari technology." The implications hit Chen like a physical blow. "Are you saying that wasn't a real Scourge ship? That the whole attack was staged?" Patel nodded grimly. "It fits with what I found, Captain. There's been a secret faction within Earth's military leadership pushing for a more aggressive stance in space. They call themselves the Vanguard. They must have salvaged tech from my escape pod," Zarketh added, her voice tinged with guilt. "Used it to create a false threat, to push your people towards war." Chen's mind reeled at the implications. A conspiracy at the highest levels of Earth's government, manipulating events to drive humanity towards an interstellar conflict. And at the center of it all, an innocent alien refugee being set up as the catalyst for war. "We need to expose this," Chen said, her voice hard with determination. "But we'll need proof. And we'll need to move fast before the Vanguard realizes we're onto them." What followed was a daring plan that pushed the boundaries of legality and tested the loyalty of Chen's crew to its limits. Using a combination of Zarketh's knowledge of Nexari encryption and Flynn's technical brilliance, they managed to hack into the Vanguard's secure communications. The evidence they uncovered was damning. Plans for false flag operations, manipulated intelligence reports, even proposals for weaponizing reverse-engineered alien technology in violation of countless international treaties. But the most chilling discovery was yet to come. Hidden deep in the encrypted files was a communication from an unknown source, one that used phrases and technical terms that Zarketh recognized as Nexari in origin. "By the cosmic void," Zarketh breathed, her eyes wide with shock. "This goes deeper than we imagined. There must be a faction within my own people collaborating with your Vanguard. They're pushing both our species towards a war that would devastate us both." The realization hit Chen like a thunderbolt. Two species, separated by light years, each manipulated by power-hungry factions interfering the other. It was a tragedy of galactic proportions, but one they now had a chance to prevent. "We need to get this information to people we can trust," Chen said, her mind already formulating a plan. "Dr. Rhodes on our side, and we'll need a secure way to contact the moderate factions in Nexari leadership." Zarketh nodded, her expression resolute. "I may be branded a traitor, but I still have contacts who will listen. If we can expose this deception to both our peoples simultaneously, we might just prevent an interstellar war," Chen finished. As they worked feverishly to compile the evidence and prepare their revelations, Chen couldn't help but marvel at the situation. Humans and an alien, working side by side to save both their species from the warmongering of their own leaders. It was a scene she could never have imagined when they first discovered Zarketh's battered escape pod. But time was not on their side. Even as they worked, Chen could sense the drumbeats of war growing louder. Inflammatory news reports, staged incidents in disputed sectors of space, all driving public opinion towards an inevitable conflict. Their chance came during a high-level summit ostensibly meant to discuss the official first contact protocols with the Nexari. Chen and her team managed to infiltrate the conference's communication systems, while Zarketh used her own encrypted channels to reach out to moderate elements in Nexari leadership. As Admiral Petrov stood to deliver what was meant to be a rousing call to arms against the alien threat, Chen made her move. The conference room's screens flickered to life, displaying the evidence of the Vanguard's deception for all to see. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen's voice rang out, amplified through the room's speakers. "We've been deceived. There is no imminent alien invasion. The threat we've been prepared to go to war over is a fabrication, created by those who would profit from conflict." The room erupted into chaos as the implications of Chen's words sank in. But she pressed on, laying out the evidence piece by piece, corroborated by live transmissions from Zarketh's Nexari contacts. For a moment, it seemed as though the weight of the deception might be too much to overcome. But then, Dr. Rhodes stood, her voice cutting through the tumult. "We stand at a crossroads," she declared. "We can give in to fear and suspicion, or we can embrace this opportunity for genuine understanding and cooperation between our species." As the truth spread, the mood began to shift. The desire for peace, for exploration and mutual understanding, proved stronger than the artificial fears that had been stoked. In the days that followed, the Vanguard conspiracy unraveled. Arrests were made, resignations tendered, and a new era of cautious but hopeful diplomacy between Earth and the Nexari began to take shape. Standing on the observation deck of the orbital station, watching shuttles ferry the first official Nexari delegation to Earth, Chen felt a profound sense of accomplishment and responsibility. "We've prevented a war," Zarketh said softly, coming to stand beside her. "But the real work is just beginning." Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the blue marble of Earth below. "Building trust between our peoples, fostering understanding. It won't be easy, but it's a challenge I look forward to." As they stood there, a human and an alien united by shared principles and a common hope for the future, Chen realized that this was what true first contact was meant to be. Not a clash of civilizations, but a meeting of minds and a sharing of dreams. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but for the first time since the Horizon had stumbled upon that battered escape pod, Chen felt genuinely optimistic about the future. Humanity had taken its first real steps into a larger galactic community, and they had done so not with weapons drawn, but with open minds and outstretched hands. The stars, it seemed, were only the beginning. A new era. The Geneva International Conference Center buzzed with an energy unlike anything in Earth's history. Delegates from every nation on the planet mingled with a contingent of Nexari representatives, their alien forms no longer a source of fear, but of fascination and hope. Captain Ilara Chen stood at the podium, her heart racing as she prepared to address the assembled dignitaries. Beside her, Commander Zarketh offered a subtle nod of encouragement, her three eyes gleaming with what Chen had come to recognize as pride. Distinguished guests, fellow humans, and our new Nexari friends, Chen began, her voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. A month ago, we stood on the brink of an interstellar war based on lies and manipulation. Today, we gather to forge a different path, one of mutual understanding, cooperation, and shared discovery. As Chen spoke, she couldn't help but reflect on the whirlwind of events that had led to this moment. The exposure of the Vanguard conspiracy had sent shockwaves through both human and Nexari societies. Leaders had fallen, alliances had shifted, and long-held beliefs about humanity's place in the universe had been fundamentally challenged. We've learned that we are not so different, despite the light years that separate our homeworlds, Chen continued. We share a curiosity about the universe, a drive to explore, and a capacity for both great destruction and remarkable compassion. She gestured to Zarketh, inviting the Nexari to join her at the podium. Commander Zarketh's bravery in defying her own people to prevent an unjust war, and her willingness to trust us despite every reason not to, demonstrates the best of what sentient beings can be, regardless of the planet they call home. Zarketh stepped forward, her alien features composed but her emotions evident in the subtle rippling of her crest. People of Earth, she began, her accented English carrying clearly through the hall. I stand before you not as a representative of the Nexari government, but as an individual who has witnessed firsthand the nobility and kindness of your species. As Zarketh spoke of her experiences aboard the Horizon and the courage shown by Chen and her crew, Chen found her mind drifting to the challenges they had overcome. The tense days following the exposure of the conspiracy had been filled with diplomatic maneuvering, public outrage, and more than a few close calls as hardliners on both sides had tried to salvage their warmongering agenda. But in the end, the desire for peace and the allure of cooperative exploration had won out. The first joint human-Nexari scientific missions were already being planned, with Dr. Flynn and his Nexari counterparts eagerly comparing notes on propulsion technologies and stellar cartography. The path forward will not be without its challenges, Zarketh was saying as Chen refocused on the present. Our cultures are different, our histories distinct. There will be misunderstandings and disagreements, but I have seen the best of humanity. Your curiosity, your adaptability, your fundamental decency. These qualities will serve us all well as we forge this new alliance. As the Nexari concluded her speech to thunderous applause, Chen felt a swell of emotion. This was why she had joined the Exploration Corps, not just to discover new worlds, but to bridge the gaps between civilizations, to push the boundaries of what was possible. The rest of the conference was a blur of speeches, treaty signings, and historic handshakes. A framework for ongoing diplomatic relations was established, along with protocols for scientific and cultural exchange. Perhaps most significantly, the Joint Defense Initiative was proposed, aimed not at fighting each other, but at protecting both species from genuine threats like the Scourge. As the proceedings wound down, Chen found herself in a quiet corner of the conference center's garden, gazing up at the stars now visible in the evening sky. She sensed rather than heard Zarketh's approach. "It's strange," the Nexeri said softly, following Chen's gaze. "Those same stars look so different from my homeworld, and yet they've brought us together." Chen nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "I used to look up there and wonder if we were alone in the universe. Now I wonder how many other civilizations are out there, waiting to be discovered. Or to discover us," Zarketh added. She was quiet for a moment, then turned to face Chen fully. "I've been offered a position, Captain, as a liaison between our peoples, helping to coordinate joint exploration missions." Chen's smile widened. "That's wonderful news, Zarketh. They couldn't have chosen a better candidate." The Nexeri's crest rippled in what Chen now knew was a gesture of embarrassment. "I'm honored, but I find myself hesitating. There's still so much I don't understand about your people, your cultures." "Isn't that the point?" Chen asked gently. "We're all going to be learning as we go. The important thing is that we're willing to try, to reach out across the void and find common ground." Zarketh nodded slowly. "You're right, of course. It's just overwhelming at times. The responsibility of it all." Chen laughed softly. "Welcome to life as a bridge between worlds. It's never easy, but I can't imagine anything more worthwhile." Their conversation was interrupted by the approach of Admiral Petrov, his face solemn, but no longer hostile. "Captain Chen, Commander Zarketh," he greeted them. "I owe you both an apology. My fear and suspicion nearly led us down a dark path. You've shown us a better way forward." Chen accepted the apology with grace, recognizing the courage it took for the Admiral to admit his mistakes. As Petrov walked away, she turned back to Zarketh. "See, we're all capable of growth, of overcoming our preconceptions. It's what gives me hope for the future." As if on cue, a bright streak cut across the sky. A joint human Nexeri vessel beginning its maiden voyage to the edges of explored space. Chen felt a familiar thrill of excitement. The universe suddenly seemed so much larger, so full of possibilities. "You know," Zarketh said thoughtfully, "there's an old Nexeri saying, 'The stars call to those with the courage to listen.'" Chen smiled. "We have a similar saying, 'Per aspera ad astra,' through hardships to the stars." As they stood there, a human and an Nexeri united in their gaze towards the cosmos, Chen reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. From a chance encounter with a battered escape pod to the brink of war and back again, it had been a trial by fire for both their species. But they had emerged stronger for it. Humanity had proven its capacity for compassion, its willingness to embrace the unknown rather than fear it. And the Nexeri, through Zarketh, had shown that even the most warlike cultures could choose a different path. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be setbacks, misunderstandings, and new challenges to face. But as Chen looked at the stars, she felt a profound sense of optimism. They had taken their first steps into a larger galactic community, and they had done so not with weapons drawn, but with open minds and outstretched hands. The universe, vast and mysterious, awaited them, and humanity, standing shoulder to shoulder with their new alien allies, was ready to meet it head-on. As the night deepened and more stars became visible, Chen and Zarketh began to plan their next mission. There were new worlds to explore, new civilizations to contact, and a galaxy of possibilities stretching out before them. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning.